Dennis using English. Okay, now let's welcome Dr. LePage.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Wow, I have to thank you all for coming. You guys have done an outstanding job, especially in the face of the impending weather. A lot of people would have stayed at home. I also want to wait up you and your team. Thank you so much. You've done an outstanding job. You've got my gratitude from everybody from SWS and International. Thank you so much. I'm also going to shamelessly plug SWS right now. We have our booth, which was back in the corner there, is out in front of me. Please go up, ask some questions. There are 5 of us here from SWS. If you have questions, by all means, ask us. And we encourage you to join. I believe it's only $25 US to become a member of the society. There are a lot of benefits, so take advantage of it. All right, the next 40 minutes, not in Mandarin. I will be talking to you about sort of my voyage. I left academia about 15, 20 years ago from being a professor to working in industry. And after about a week in industry, I realized, wow, we don't really do a good job of being able to communicate scientific concepts and ideas to the general public. And as a consultant, you need to do that. It's part of your job. You need to be able to communicate ideas effectively to the community, to regulators. And that took a lot of extra effort to learn how to do that effectively. People basically, as soon as they start hearing numbers and formulas, their brain shut down. They don't want to hear it because they don't understand it. When I got into industry a little more, as part of the utility world, making power, electricity, and selling that to the public, my role as a scientist in the company was to clean up contamination. And on the East Coast in Philadelphia, the culture is very different from what you see in California. When I got to California, I had to relearn everything again because the culture in California is very different from the East Coast. The people in California are much more engaged, they have much better questions, and the questions they ask are much harder to answer. You cannot tell them to go away. That's just going to incite a fist fight. So what I'm going to do now is sort of get into a little more of the weeds in terms of stakeholder engagement, because for me, I had to take it apart. I had to deconstruct what was going on, understand the people, the cultures, and put that back together again. So this is going to be more of a journey into the human psyche and how people think and act. Well, who are stakeholders? What are they? They're all of us. Everybody in this room is a stakeholder. It doesn't matter whether it is on a wetland project. The last thing you want to see is a bulldozer outside of your front door of your house deciding that they're going to build a 24-hour mall. You might have something to say about that. And it's important. So think of this as, this is not unique to wetlands. This is everything. This is everyday life. Why do we want to engage stakeholders? And are they all the same? Well, stakeholders have evolved over time like we have evolved. People have become much more engaged. They've become much more informed about issues. The stakeholders from the 60s and the 70s are a lot different than they are today. So we cannot, or we have to continuously evolve how we interact with stakeholders because they're evolving as well. More importantly, as I said, we are all stakeholders. We all have a right into what's going on, what's being made, what decisions are being made. If it's in our community, we want to make sure that from the standpoint of human nature, how is this going to impact me? How is this going to impact my life, my family, my community? Those are very, very important questions that one needs to consider when you're working with, when you're in that arena working with individuals and other communities. The public's contribution will influence the decisions that you make. Gil's pointed out really, really nicely that there's some feedback you get into Sometimes you get into people looking at a problem very differently. As scientists, we're trained to look at it as geologists, engineers. The general public, what I like to call the left side of the brain thinkers, often bring new ideas and a new way of looking at a problem that we don't think about. So it often challenges conventional thinking, which is good, because we cannot dig ourselves into a box and try and force what we think, scientifically the facts are the facts are the facts, but there's other extenuating circumstances that we have to take into account. How and when do we engage? As soon as possible. I've seen a lot of models where something is developed, we come up to a conceptual plan, we might get up to a 60 or 90% design, and then we roll it out to the public. And we always go, well, that didn't go so well. What I've learned is that you want to take the stakeholders, they should be the first step. Bring them in right at the front end of the project, because, yeah, it's going to take a little longer. It's going to maybe be a little more expensive, but again, it's going to pay off. Public participation is the key. Do your homework early. There was a young lady asked a really good question on, who has, typically the people that are usually pushing back the hardest are the ones that don't understand the issues or maybe have the most to lose. But what you want to do is get those people engaged early. And if you're not doing your homework, you want to know if you've got a project going on in a community, you want to spend 6 months before you even approach them, maybe even a year, trying to understand how does this community work. Who are the noisy people? Who are the ones that are going to support you? What are the different factions? There's a lot of politics that go on in the community level you want to understand. Again, know your audience. This is a project that I have in a power plant in San Francisco. I have English, Chinese, Spanish, and surprisingly, Samoan. I didn't know we had a Samoan population in and around this facility, and we make work notices in all the languages. And that to me was like, wow, okay, well I need to get smarter because I know nothing about Samoan. Why involve the public? There are a lot of good examples why you want to do that. Again, you want to get engaged. You want to build that trust. The first thing are the relationships. The relationships are the most important thing, because if they don't trust you, and typically I'm used to this because I work for big business, I work for a big company. Everybody has a light bill and a power bill and a gas bill. Everybody hates their bill, so everybody hates the gas company. So we've got a big target painted on our forehead because people just don't like us and they don't trust us because we're happen to be really handy and be slapped around. You've got to get in front of them and let them, show them that you're a real person. You have a family. Yeah, I don't like how expensive power is as well as you, but it is what it is. You have to get past that. What it'll do is once you've gotten that relationship built with the community, they will trust you. They will become an ally or an advocate for you. And I'm going to talk a little bit about a project that we're doing, and that is very, very important. It's very powerful, especially if you are trying to work with a regulatory agency that might be a little hard to deal with, or you might have some opponents. If you've got the town or the community behind you, that is a very powerful statement. Lots of sort of key points or things to remember. Engage early and don't do it once. Do it a lot. I have a team of communication and stakeholder experts on all of my projects. As a program manager, I have about 20 to 30 projects that are going on at any given time. I use the resources of 3 companies to help me make sure that I'm getting the message in front of people. That, to me, is huge. In order to get my work done, I need to make sure that I've got no issues coming up from the public. So I utilize, I think there was another question I was asked in terms of the mediators. I never mediate, I'm not good at it. So we always suggest an independent third-party mediator, somebody who's neutral, somebody who's Switzerland, who can go into the room and gain control by asking the right questions. And there are people, there are companies that do that for you. So by all means, don't dismiss that as an option. Most importantly, manage the expectations. When I deal with the community, I tell them, this is what I can do, and this is what I can't do. You might want me to do all of these things for you, but at the end, it's unrealistic. It's going to be very expensive, and because I work for a utility, the money comes from the public. So if you want me to build you something really, really fancy, everybody's electric rates are going to go up, and I can't do that because I'm a ratepayer as well, and I've got a responsibility to the entirety of the people that use that basically use my power. I have to be able to stand in front of the judge and say, yes, that was a reasonable use of resources to fix this or create this. Do always what you say you're going to do all the time. So that takes, again, more homework. You've got to know the issues, you've got to know the problems, so that when you make promises, you've got to keep those promises as part of that trust issue again. Establish long-term relationships. Just don't go in and out once. And that's where the resources of a professional company, communications company, they can go in, they can send junior people in, work the meetings, work the town meetings, know what is going on in the community at all times, and again, be prepared to just go at any time. If somebody has a question, answer it. Probably the last point, listen, listen, listen. People want to be heard. That is so true. And if people hear you and listen for understanding, make sure that you understand what they're asking for. This is just a list. I send my team out, I find out, okay, what's this town, what's the makeup of the town, what's the cultures, the dynamics, who's in and around the site that we're working on. And that's a short list of some of the folks and agencies or community groups that we engage. So we don't stop at anything, because really the dynamics of the community is like a living organism. Each one is different, and the better you understand the community, the more success you're going to have. Different techniques. Again, this is just kind of a little bit of a list. Inform, consult, basically, and this is where you want to bring them in. You want to bring them in. Here's what we're doing. This is how we're going to do it, but keep it broad enough, open-ended enough, so that when people start to contribute, you go, okay, well, that's a great idea. Let's talk about that. Let's work with that. And that's where the consulting part is. You're taking their ideas and you're feeding it into the design, and you may come up with 2 or 3 scenarios that you're never going to get right on the first time. You got to think this is a series of meetings. Work it so that it forces you to go back on multiple occasions to work with the community, because you're going to the longer you work with, the tighter the project is going to be, and the fewer exposure points you're going to have. But they're going to feel as if and not only feel, but they're going to know they were part of the process. Collaborate again. We work a lot with the community, but sometimes the local politicians. Sometimes you could put a spin on something if you're building a wetland or you're building some sort of a resource, and you can get the buy-in from the mayor, the county, somebody in the elected office at the county level or at the state level, and they provide the support for this. This is good.